Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another Training Tuesday. Here we are. This time, though, we're actually not talking about Magic Q. We're talking about a newer addition to the ChamSys family, which is MediaMaster. So let's start looking at the right thing here. Here we have MediaMaster 26. It is now out in beta, so you guys can test drive it. You can play along. You can try everything we're going to show you today at home in demo mode. Obviously, it will watermark every few seconds, but you can still give this all a test drive, including the DMX control, the full mapper, which is what we're talking about today, as well as some of the other stuff you guys are going to see throughout some of these other Training Tuesdays based on MediaMaster. So what do we have going on here? We have MediaMaster in its full mode here. We have a couple layers going. What I've set up for you guys today so we can play with some stuff is actually, we have a projector. Actually, we have multiple projectors. We'll get to that later. Set up on the wall here, playing back our content. So we have a real output. We're not just going to look at it on a screen. We're going to see how it works in real life. And we're starting with the most simple thing in the world, which is unfortunately the way that production has gone lately is everybody just wants their big TV. So one screen, there it is, video wall, be it TV, whatever they set up for you. To get to the mapper, we're going to obviously have already opened MediaMaster. And we'll go up to mapping and we're going to say Video Mapper. That's going to kick our Video Mapper in. And I already have some stuff set up because if I took the time to step by step through all of this, it would take a minute. So I've set up a series of surfaces. You see that I have all these mosaic surfaces. I've made these 240 by 540, which is, eighths by halves, basically. You can see it here in the preview window. And then I've set up a full screen output, which is what we're playing on now, and a pip. The pip is, you can see the red line outlined here. It's its own little surface here. We'll talk about that in a minute. And once I've made all of these, I've gone into the patch within MediaMaster. So we'll close the mapper down for just a second. And we've gone to, if I can find the right thing, there we go, DMX patch editor. I've patched my 4 layers. I've just patched them in their medium mode. You see that's about a universe worth of layers there. We go to the next universe though. We have our surfaces. So our surfaces have numbers associated with them. You see surface all 1, surface all 2, so on, so on, so on, so on. I think I have 3 or 4 universes of surfaces. And then finally I have an output layer, which we're not really going to talk about today, but I just put it in there so we had a full setup, just like we would in real life. Once I've patched those, and once I've made those, I can go into Manage, and each of these surfaces can have a DMX address as far as a value on a control channel for the layer, so we can send just that layer to just that surface. So there's all my mosaics, there's my pip. I've even made a group down here starting in the 200s for a mosaic. We'll get to that in a minute as well. A group is just a series of these. So you see here, if I go to mosaic, I've selected all the mosaics. That means when I send these to what ends up being DMX value 201, it'll send that layer to all of these surfaces at once. So one layer, multiple surfaces. That comes in really handy for things like pips, or if you're trying to send the same content to multiple places. You don't have to eat up a bunch of individual layers and play the same clip over and over. You can send one clip to as many surfaces as you want. Now with that said, that's exactly what I've done with this pip layer. So if I bring up Magic Q here, I've written a little Q stack here. And in our Q stack, we have our layers within MediaMaster. You can see that both of those layers are going to one surface. Now, if I hit go and I move to the next one, you'll see that now I have split those. Now it looks fairly similar. You see the logo got a little bit smaller. That's expected because now it's on its own surface. But you'll see that we have layer 2 is now routed to surface 5. Layer 1 is now routed to surface 3. What that allows me to do, if I go back into my mapper, is rather than scaling on the layer and distorting the content and messing with all of that stuff, I can come in here. We'll put our mapper to full screen so we see our changes live. I can go to the pip layer. And with this pip layer, I can move and scale and set our logo wherever I want. So a lot of people think of the mapper for projection. We're going to look at that a little bit later. Some people know it as a way to scale your media to a given video wall. So you have portrait video walls for iMag in concert setup or something like that. But what it can also be used for is it can be used for compositing and laying out things in various ways. So if I need this logo to be a lower third, oops, so I grabbed the wrong layer. Should probably lock all my layers. That would probably be smart. So we can right click here and we can, oh, I don't have a lock all layers here. Well, we'll just do it the hard way. See if I can, there we go. Sorry, this computer's struggling a little bit over remote desktop to play along. So there we go. If I want a lower third, there's my logo as a lower third. Now I can make multiple of these and I can make a group and I can send this logo to multiple screens. If I was doing a widescreen setup, which we'll look at a little bit later, I could do 2 pips and I could show that logo in multiple places. But we can do a lot more with this than just scale media and, you know, make things fit the framework. We can actually do almost like effects across the screen without using any content. So if we look at this mosaic setup that we have here, I am going to close the mapper now because it forces all of the layers to full. So we're going to close that. It's going to go out of full screen, back into full screen. You see that it's taken the change. We now have our lower third logo. And I'm going to advance Magic Q. You see we can shift on layer. We can go back to the center logo. But now we're using the mosaic layers. So if you look in MediaMaster, you see that there's a lot more surfaces lit up. We're still just running one layer, so one piece of content. So I'm not running that content 16 times. I'm just running it once. But surface 1, 2, we skipped 3, which is the full screen, 5 is the pip, but all the other ones are now playing it. And if I advance again, I can change content on those. Oh, give me 1 second. I just opened Magic Q. I didn't want to do that. I want to stay in the remote surface here. We advance again. We can change content. We can do on layer fades just like we normally would. But because we've patched in Magic Q, so if we look at our Magic Q patch, because we've patched not just the layers, but also all of the surfaces in Magic Q, we can treat those as fixtures. And that means we can do things with them. We can change their color. We can adjust all of their brightnesses. There's some geometry correction in there. We can do some really interesting stuff. That means if I advance again in Magic Q to something that has an effect, I can actually run effects across all of my surfaces. So now my video wall isn't just playing back a solid piece of content. It's now something more or less interactive with the show where we can do different effects. We can do different clips on different surfaces. Remember, the surfaces stack, so if I was to do this with something beneath these, as they go dark or black, you can see what's below them. And we can, of course, play full screen content. Where this gets even more interesting, though, if we advance back around to where we just saw each tape deck on its own, is in the mapper, we can quickly make this a solid surface. So we'll go back to our MediaMaster setup here. We'll open up our mapper. We'll go to Video Mapper. And because I've used the entire roster, this gets really easy as far as making things fit. So up on the bottom here, we have our scaling and our size for everything. So we can adjust that scaling, adjust that size. We go full screen. But on the top here, we have a cropping layer. So if I go to Mosaic 1, which is the first mosaic layer, and I start bringing this in, you see that it starts distorting that layer. It crops and controls what that sees. Once we have everything laid out on the screen, we actually don't have to figure out the math of this is this many pixels by this many pixels. We can come up here and just say match video shape. Click it. And we'll do that for each one of these. Just go down the list here. And you see, as I'm doing that, we're starting to get our full screen image. We're going to use this again a little bit later for something even cooler, actually in the opposite direction. There we go. We'll just keep cruising. Maybe I shouldn't have done 18 of these, but that's all right. It's going to look good. Keep on cruising here. Almost done. One more. There we go. What that's done is it's taken the pixel count, pixel position, and it's given that crop to make it full screen. So now we have a full screen image. Again, I'm going to close my mapper. The reason I'm closing my mapper between each one is when you open the mapper, the surface output intensity gets locked at full so you can see what you're doing. So our chases and fun stuff isn't going to work if we have the mapper open. But now you see, instead of 16 tapes, we have one tape. But if I bring up and I advance through our chases, I can now chase that image using the surfaces to manipulate that. So it's, again, it's not just creating something that's sizing and scaling and all of that, but it's something you can use in your show to create windows, to create more effects, to use the video wall, if that's what you have, as actually a fixture. You can have up to 200 surfaces that you can patch via DMX. So that's quite a few tiles. Obviously, if you have a really, really big wall, maybe you do one surface for every 4 tiles, you know, bigger chunks. But the cool thing is you can choose. These surfaces can be abstract, that you can make them odd shapes, you can make them diamonds and squares and move things around and really do whatever you want to break your wall up into different ways that you can chase them or run them and make cool things happen. So that's one example. That's going to be the most common example for your average everyday human being today, because again, everybody wants their big TV. But where this excels and where we can do some really, really cool stuff is when we get into projection. Now projection's kind of gone by the wayside for a lot of people, again, because everybody wants the big TV. But projection affords you a flexibility and a size to cost that you'll never get out of a video wall. So for that, I've actually made some other mapper profiles. So we'll open our mapper back up. And now you can save these maps. So if you have different walls, different setups that you work with, we can go to File, we can go to Export, we can save that map. I got it down here in the Train Tuesday demo folder. So here we can go Mosaic T, because I changed some stuff. I go there, I save it. It's going to ask me to replace it. Yep, for sure. And I can also reload other things. So I'm going to import, go back to that folder. And we're going to grab the blended Training Tuesday setup. Now everything's going to go a little bit weird for a second here because all of our layers and all of that stuff is a little odd. What we can do is we can use a test pattern within the mapper to start setting this up. So we have a few things here. We will hide our pip surface for now. And you'll notice, if I remember to zoom the camera out, that would be helpful, that we now have a wider screen. That's actually 3 projectors blended together. Again, I'm cheating a little bit having these preset things in interest of time. But if I were to come into our output here, what I've done is I've grouped our 3 projectors. So that's as simple as, if we come in here, we can ungroup them. Let's see if I can not make a total mess of this. There we go, group 1, 2, 3. Let's get rid of that surface. Let's get rid of that surface. And we can put a single surface on each one of these just so you guys can see them. There we go. I am going to take MediaMaster out of full screen so that I can work on this one in full screen. And hopefully not make it angry. I seem to have lost a portion of that. We'll reopen the mapper. Again, beta software, bear with me. Let's go. Oh, that's because I have deselected them. Something of note. I should have probably covered this earlier. You see this little bubble next to it. So we have our TV, and you notice only one of them has a bubble. That's what just caught me out. I need to select those to make those part of my output. The Samsung is the TV that's running the GUI. We're not going to send anything to that. So we'll try this again. And now, there we go. We'll put our test pattern back up. And you see that we have our 3 projectors. Now, of course, I have all the control that I had previously of my surfaces. I can scale them out. I can make them full screen. I can do all those things. But I can also, like I said, I can group these. So if I close all of these, and we grab these 3 outputs. So these are physical outputs from the video card, displays, if you will. And we're going to say group outputs. It's going to flicker and freak out for a minute. But now you see I have group A, blah, blah, blah. And we have all 3 of our screens represented here. Now if I add a surface to this, and we'll turn our test pattern back on, you see that that surface now blends or extends. If I can get this to behave. Sorry again, new software. There we go. Now we have control of it. Right, so we can take our surface, we can stretch it out. To cover all of those outputs. Now, right now, that kind of looks like garbage. Part of it is I have these in the wrong order. I can click the little I here. You see we have 2, 4, 3, not 2, 3, 4. So we can actually grab this, drag it over here. That's going to reorganize it. Now we're 2, 4, 3. We hit identify. You see that we got 2, 4, 3 popping up there. Really good. A is going to represent the main video card. There's only one video card in this box. So that if I had a second video card that I was outputting from, it would be B, 1, 2, 3, so on. Excuse me. Now, we have them put together, but you can see there's overlap there. This gets into what we call blending, projection blending. You can turn that on per output per side. So here you see it. It gives us some blue under correction. And we can come in here and say on. We're going to have to reassert our test pattern. And you see that it's started the blending process. Now, right now, there's a bit of a bug in this where it's going to kill my test pattern every time I mess with it. But I can adjust these things to get them to line up. It's a little bit easier with the right test patterns. This built-in test pattern is pretty good for it. Width is going to physically move the overlap region. So you see that last move I did got me pretty close on that overlap region. I'm going to reopen the already blended one just so we can see what the other two do after it's already aligned. So we'll reopen this, we'll reassert. There we go. And we will turn that pip layer off. There we go. So this is one that I've already blended just to show you what the other things do when we're in correction here. We have width, which is going to physically move it. We have center, which is kind of our blend, how drastic our blend is. Or sorry, curve. And then we have center value, which allows us to kind of fine tune how that overlap works. You can play with these till the cows come home, trying to get it as perfect as possible. It's going to depend on your situation. but you can get them pretty good. I mean, this was 5 minutes of work, and you see that all three of those are now one continuous image. We have done some geometry corrections. So in the output window for these, so where we have our individual outputs, this is actually warping each individual output, not the surfaces. So the surfaces are still full screen. We haven't done any correction on that, but we can do minor adjustments to the geometry here to help line up all those edges and make everything work right. So blending is great, and once we've blended something, the reason I have this pip layer here is because we can show you that we can run that pip across all three screens and put it wherever we want. So if we wanted to do an actual widescreen setup, we'll go back to just MediaMaster. I could put a pip layer here for iMag. I could duplicate that layer. I could take that other pip layer, I could put it over here for iMag. I could duplicate it again. I can move that new layer over here as a logo layer. And I can key in all of this, all these pixel counts and get everything pixel perfect and right in the right spot. For right now, we'll just drag and make them close. And now I can send different things to each of those layers if I wanted to. So lots of flexibility here, lots of reasons to use this in your everyday show, not just shoot full output and shrink the layer down to fit the screen. No, use the mapper, make everything fit properly. It'll save you a ton of time scaling in the console, a ton of time making presets or palettes, whether in MediaMaster or in the console. It'll let you scale things appropriately so that every time you bring something into these pips, they're going to be exactly the right size. Any questions before I move on to the last part? We'll lean on Luke for that, see if he tells us if anybody's got any questions. He's typing. We're waiting. He's typing. Oh, must be a question. He's typing for a while. There was one about MA3 and MANet, but it's been answered. Okay, then. Yes, we do MA, and we still do. We are retaining the ability to control MediaMaster with MANet. Yes. So that's pretty awesome for you guys that want to use the dark side there. The last thing gets you into the way more advanced stuff for the mapper and what you can do with this. So we're going to bring both of these back up. And the reason I have these three projectors, and if you noticed, I have some really weird geometry going on here. So yeah, I have the blended lineup on this edge to make everything line up perfectly. But then this shoots off way into La La Land. The reason it does that is because I have another thing hiding over here. I have my little cube guy there. Did I make a preset to zoom in on the cube? I don't believe I did, because I'm not smart enough for that. All right. Well, let's go make one. Give me a second. Let me adjust the camera, and we will get right up and in on that cube. It's a little shaky. So this little guy is something a buddy of mine built for me years ago to demo projection mapping. Surprisingly with, well, not surprisingly, with Archaeos and MediaMaster. Now we have ChamSys MediaMaster, we can do the same thing. What we can do with this is we can put surfaces on every surface of this cube. So just to give you an idea, we'll add a new surface here. We'll take this guy over here. And we can come in here and say edit grid. That's going to give us our geometry correction. And we can now take each corner of this and we can distort it however we see fit. Once we have it clicked, we can actually use the arrow keys, which is a really slick way of lining everything up as close as you can. Now I'm doing this through a camera on another computer, and it's not going to be perfect. But we can get it really close. We'll drag that one down. Woo, too far there. Let's get everything kind of roughed in with the mouse. And then we'll fine tune it with the arrows. So we can see our corner there. Let's see our corner there. Now this corner is going to cheat a little bit because he's got a flat bottom, but we'll get it close. And then this one goes here. Cruising, cruising, cruising. There we go. And we can actually map various surfaces and geometries, and we can do curves. We can make these surfaces end up curved if we want to. So if we're trying to do a sphere, or we're trying to do a wavy wall, or whatever kind of weird surface we get to play with that day, we can map onto these. Now, I have cheated, and I have already made one of these, so you guys won't have to watch me make all of these surfaces. So we'll go back in here. We'll go to import. And we will grab cube. Everything's going to kind of freak out for a second. Now we have some stray layers from our Magic Cube programming because obviously all of our surface numbers have changed. So we'll just turn that off for now. And let's bring back our test pattern. Now you can see I've mapped this in two different ways. On the top of the cube, I have a surface for each face. So if we go in here, so there's one there, and one. So it looks like these three. So top, front, front. But then on the bottom, I've brought those together, and I've used that same match output shape option that we used earlier to put this shape flat on the surface instead of distorting it. And you see that it's putting the image across all three of the bottom surfaces as though it's one image. So to see this all work together, we'll go back to our MediaMaster as our full. We'll turn off our test information. We'll shrink this down, and we will turn off the DMX. So we're going to come in here to Preferences, DMX, Kill ArtNet, and now we have manual controls. So let's grab a clip here. Let's see what we can find. Find something fun here, maybe. I had some clips in here. Where'd they go? There we go. Maybe our little fan here. Now, by default, in theory, the fan is going to play on every surface. So all outputs. I should probably close the mapper to do this. There we go. Maybe, maybe not. It's going to make a liar of me because I had DMX going to it. Now it's very lost and very annoyed. Let's, there's no intensity to those. Maybe we do this through MediaMaster because I had it already set up there. I didn't get this far in my testing yesterday. So let's put ArtNet back on. And let's see what kind of damage we can do with MediaMaster. So let's go to group. We're going to grab all of our outputs. We're going to locate them. We're going to grab layer 1. We're going to locate that. We're going to go to media. I know you guys can't see what I'm doing. Don't worry about it. I'm just bringing up some stuff in here in hopes that this works. There we go. Let's go grab all these. And grab media. Sorry, I'm just resetting everything back to using all layers here. There's all outputs. Well, that's annoying. Why aren't those all working? This is me, not the software. Again, I didn't get this far in my testing. There you go. It's playing on the blend, though. We're getting that done. See it playing on the pip layers and playing on the blend. Let's go back to MediaMaster. Let's go to mapping. All right, so surface 2, we want to shut off because it's just getting in the way. There we go. All right, now we're in business. Camera, we'll correct the camera. There we go. Now you can see it playing. Let's find a brighter clip to make this look good. You can see the final result. So there we go. So now you can see the top is scaled differently from the bottom. Everything plays across everything individually. There's a good one to show you the different scaling. So again, you can have a lot of fun with this. Find things to shoot projectors at, morph them, distort them, wave them, make them do weird stuff. This is a really down and dirty demo of what the mapper can do, but it gives you an idea of some of the crazy stuff we can make it do. So yeah, sorry for that little mess up there at the end, but like I said, that's a pretty full setup there. If we have blended projection and we have geometry correction and we have various scaling and cropping and we have three-dimensional mapping, that's a lot. I mean, there's a lot going on there. This is all running off a single PC. It's not a very hardcore PC. Any of the off-the-shelf MediaMaster servers can do this for their respective outputs, or you can build a custom PC like I did for this. And yeah, any other questions before I wrap up here, Luke? No questions? All right. I thought there would be more questions about this. That makes me sad, but that's all right. Cool. Well, download the new beta for MediaMaster 26. Give it a test drive. Put it on any computer you got that has a few outputs. You can, like I said, you can output. It's just going to watermark every now and then. So you can run DMX to it. You can play with the mapper. You can shoot it at things. An example of things like my little cube there, I just took a couple cases, like Vanguard style briefcases, stacked them up on my desk one day at work and started playing with this. And that turned into a bunch of shows that we sold once the bosses realized that we could projection map stuff. And the cube here came to be as a way to demo exactly what I was doing in my office with nothing but found objects. So play with it, see what you can do with it, because the mapper gives you so much more flexibility than just what most people use it for, which is just scaling it to a video wall. So maybe we'll see the return of awesome big format projection come back, because we used to do it all the time and it was amazing. So, yeah, as usual, you can find us at www.camsyslighting.com. Feel free to leave some comments. We will keep an eye on it. If you guys are watching this after the fact and you have some questions, you can either hit us up there or you can just comment in the video and one of us will pop in and answer it. We don't abandon these streams after we do them. We do keep an eye on them. So thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you soon.